We're still on meltdown. At least a lot of you are. Maybe some of us are a little bit behind the scenes, but nonetheless, we're going to break down a little bit of what happened for Michigan at USC and look forward to the week that is at hosting Washington with our quarterback, Jack Tuttle, on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy, what is it, Wednesday? I have no idea. It's all blends together. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. That's our quarterback, Jack Tuttle. We are in the pocket with Jack Tuttle. And Jack, first off, I wanted to get into it, but we got to thank our everydayers. We got to thank everyone for making us your first listen. And this is just going to be an ebb and flow. Like we're on the no plan, much like it kind of felt like some parts of Michigan was against USC. But what's your overall feeling coming out of the game? Obviously, Michigan fans are melting down. I'm kind of the mindset that, it's a little premature to do so, but what is your thought?
I think there were a lot of emotions that game, Isaiah, and it's tough to see because that was the turning point, not really turning point, but it could have been the game that boosts Michigan into the college football playoffs and helps, push them through the rest of the season to the team down south when we play them week 12. And it sucks to see that they lost, this opportunity in LA. I don't think they were prepared. They traveled a long way to Los Angeles and it looked like they were tired. It looked like they were, again, unprepared and not ready for the moment. And it was super unfortunate to see.
How surprised are you that they were unprepared? Now, Michigan is the tired thing. I think that somewhat makes sense. I mean, you're from California. Granted, you weren't just flying in to play games from home or anything like that, but Michigan's had a long track record of losing those West Coast games. Really, the only one in recent memory is the 2023 Rose Bowl. Otherwise, even not a lot of regular season games out there, but like Rose Bowls when I was in school, the Chad Henne years, you had the, years before that, trips to Washington, trips to Oregon. Michigan would just lose all of those. So how hard is it to go out there? And are you surprised that they were as tired and as unprepared as they appeared to be?
I'm not surprised. And, I've had several conversations with people over the past week. They were tired. That's how it goes. Travel is brutal as a player, especially when you're traveling across 2 time zones and they're getting to LA. They got there a day early. It wasn't enough. They came out and just played like they were exhausted. And apparently they were, too much practicing, too much walkthroughs, mental exhaust. There's too many meetings sometimes. And as a player, I've been to a couple places where it's been like that. Sometimes you have too many meetings beforehand. Sometimes you have too many walkthroughs, too many practices, reps. And some people may go, what are you talking about? There's never too much. There's never too much reps and practice and this and that. Yeah, there is. Andrew Luck, I've talked to him several times. When I played at Indiana, he used to kind of mentor me on some stuff. And he used to say mental fatigue is a thing. Obviously physical fatigue too, but mental fatigue, wearing yourself out before a game is a thing. So you want to do just that proper amount before a game to really just prime you up. And it kind of looked like it was overkill this week. And it was unfortunate again.
Yeah, both sides of the ball. All 3 phases. This was, I can understand why people are melting down. I can. For those who feel like, I get a lot of ridiculous comments like he's just trying to keep access to the program. Like, I'm going to have access to the program whether I say fire everybody or keep everybody. Like, whether I give praise or if I give, just complete consternation, anger, all that stuff. I'm still going to have access to the program, right? But it's I kind of don't remember where I was going with this, but aside from But it does feel like with all three phases, it was bad in a way that we generally haven't seen in the Sharon Moore era. Do you feel like this was an anomaly? Do you feel like this is an omen of things that are, to come? How are you feeling about it in the moment?
Mixed emotions at this point. I think the biggest thing a lot of people need to do right now. The biggest thing people need to do right now is, okay, we understand this was a terrible game. It was a tough loss. And, instead of, dwelling on this moment and kind of saying, oh, yeah, it may be a snowball effect here these next couple of weeks. And, I'm going to choose optimism here. I'm going to choose let's, get this home game against Washington. I've shared my points and my thoughts on what it may have been. And this week is a home game. Now, guess what? Washington has to travel all the way across the country to us. All right, let's pick ourselves back up. Let's throw the first punch and let's get the fans rocking in the big house Saturday. And yeah, I was pissed just like everyone else this whole week. And I was frustrated, but let's change it around. Let's be optimistic. Let's get back into the fight. None of us can control what's going to happen with the coaching staff, with the players. And, it's frustrating because we care so much, but the best thing we can do now is go in there and cheer loud and give them support, because the players are what really matters, guys. The players are the people sacrificing their bodies, their mentality every single day and every single second for Michigan. And the best thing these fans can do to them and how they can treat them is with positivity and giving them all they have to, because these players sacrifice everything. If that makes sense, Isaiah.
Yeah, it does. And that leads me, let's not make this a loaded question, but we know that I had a conversation with a staffer early last year who was saying that he felt like the players were going to will Michigan to the college football playoff. You were part of that team. It didn't quite work out that way, but how do you feel that Michigan, you were there last year, kind of similar circumstances. It was around this time that, there was losses to Washington and then Illinois. And, you played in those games. And then after that, medically retired. But yet things kind of had the upswing in the latter eighth of the season, however you want to put it. How are you confident that they can do that again? Do you feel like that was an anomaly in and of itself for last year? How do you feel about the idea that they can right the ship based off of players, who you played with, based off of the coaches that you played under, all of that?
Yeah. So I think for that to happen, the defense is going to have to play a lot better. The defense was primarily the reason we won so many games last year and we beat Ohio State, and they have to figure it out. They can't point fingers at each other. They have to look themselves in the mirror and say, okay, hey, this is what happened. Coach Wink, you're our leader. Let's talk about it. What happened? What were some of the calls? What can we do better? What can you do better? They have to come, and come together and unify and just grow. And that's what we saw last year. They had bad moments last year, but by the end of the year, they were really rock solid. And going into that Week 12 game, they didn't give Ohio State anything. So I really just hope that it's just a nice build for this defense and they really come into play here, because we're seeing the same offensive struggles we saw last year, even with a better quarterback, even with two better receivers. It's just not good enough on offense. And it pays me to say, because, obviously you said it. I was a part of the struggle last year. We all were. And you don't want that for your little brothers. You don't want that for the next team, because it was painful to go through. We were all disappointed in ourselves last year because we hold Michigan to a really high standard and we want to win. For all the people who care, we want to win for the university. And, they need to take that as seriously this year, because we don't need to see guys goof around. I've talked to you about it earlier. My opinion on that. We need this team to take Michigan as seriously, as that 2023 team. Michigan is one of the best programs in the country and one of the winningest program in the country. And that's how they need to treat it.
All right, we're going to continue on with Jack Tuttle as we continue our struggle session together. And we're going to do that here in just a moment. But before we do, Mazda crafts cars. For those who do more than simply move, Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to the available Napa leather upholstery. And listen, with all-wheel drive standard and every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move or be moved. All right, we're going to continue on here in a moment, but listen, Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. The swivel screen is a game changer. You can go from running on the Tread Plus to strength training without even missing a beat. And the personalized class recommendations keep you engaged. You get workouts tailored to your vibe and energy level each week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. All right, I feel like we covered like a half hour in like a 10-minute period there, but I mean, it feels like the longest week ever. Normally when we get to Wednesday, I'm just like, I feel like everything's breezing through. Like, listen, if people, I understand my last couple episodes for those who watched or listened. I've had 3. This is the 4th that we've done since the loss. They might feel a little sunshine blowy to some degree, just because I say like a lot of what we saw was something of an anomaly. Against USC. I want to wait until Washington comes around before we start really hurling stones. But there were a few good things that came out of the game to add to the sunshine blowing, since we just went all doom. I know they were very few, very, very few, very, very, very few. But Jack, what were those very few things that you felt were good coming out of the USC game?
Yeah, I think we need to stop the narrative. First of all, we need to stop the narrative that Michigan doesn't have any receivers anymore. I talked to, my colleague Devin Gardner earlier this week, and, he agreed with that. Michigan has 2 good receivers, and it's Donovan McCulley and Andrew Marsh. And we saw Andrew Marsh play really well. We saw Donovan get a touchdown catch. That narrative needs to stop. And the other receivers may have drop issues, but guess what? We have 2 really good receivers who, this team should believe in heavily. And guess how many receivers other teams usually have that are good? Alabama, they probably have 2 receivers, Bernard and Williams. I think that's his name, Bernard. Sorry if I got it wrong. But usually other teams, you have about 2, maybe 3 good receivers on a team. And Michigan should be, stoked with that. And that, even though there is a drop issue, yes, I get it. That needs to be fixed. But the receivers are not the issue at this moment. Okay. And that can go away. That was one of the positives, finally, a young guy stepping up, Andrew Marsh. I'm stoked on that. And I'd say the second positive, and you're going to laugh at this, is the opportunity to move on and play Washington this week and rebound. That's the other positive I can think of at this moment. This game needs to be taken seriously. Because guess what, Isaiah, this is the make or break moment of the season. Because if you lose, guess what happens? Even more stones get thrown at the coaching staff, the program, and you're probably out of the playoffs, number 1. And if you win this game, you gain a little bit of your momentum back. Okay, you beat a really good Washington team who's lost only to Washington State, and they actually played them decently well. Their offense just struggled that game, and Ohio State's defense, really good. I still hate them. The props are given to their defense. So this game should be taken. It's the biggest game of the season right now, right here this week. And it's going to be a great one to watch. And the first things first is, understanding their players. They're not as good as USC's players. Washington is a little lower tier, player wise, not by much, but a little bit. And still going to be a tall task for the Wolverines. And I believe they can get it done. 100%.
I do too. And I've talked to some colleagues who have kind of got some inside info on just kind of the mood in Seattle. And it's not super high coming to Ann Arbor, right? Like, so there is that. I mean, that might mean that they end up, getting fired up and feeling like they can play spoiler and, they've got everything ahead of them. They're going to be playing at 9 a.m. body clock. I mean, that's hard, right? Like they're going to be taking pre-game warm-ups at 7 a.m. their time. It's hard to go from, I think it's funny. Michigan has the problem going east to west. Personally, I don't know how you feel, Jack. Personally, I feel like that's way easier than going west to east. Yes. West to east feels impossible. And anytime, like when I was living in LA and I'd come back to Michigan, I would basically be in a coma for 3 days. And, because you're losing 3 hours, right? Like it's a different deal. Like imagine like your normal wake up time as a player is like, I mean, I'm sure it's always early, like 5 a.m. or whatever, but like, that's the time that you're groggily wandering into the building is when Washington is going to be taking the field for the first time, in pregame warmups. So, that's a challenge. I think that I want to know real quick before we move on here. I've talked a lot about the reason why I feel like Michigan lost the game on Saturday was defensive ineptitude, and it does go beyond the tackling, but generally that was the biggest thing in my eyes. I know you were on the offensive side, but like, how quickly do you think that can be fixed? Because we haven't really seen Michigan struggle to tackle like we did against USC.
Yeah, and I think missing tackles is more of, obviously there's technique and there's teaching to, tackling and, creating turnovers, punching out the football. There's technique to all that, but it's really just a lack of discipline and probably just energy. And usually they don't do that. Like you said, they're a really physical defense and they do a good job, and that'll definitely get fixed this week. And I'm hoping. And if it doesn't, then it's not going to look good. But, part of it is these guys may be tired. They may be exhausted like we thought they were. We saw it on the field. So that could definitely contribute to it. And, it just there needs to be more, discipline with this defense. They need to get on the same page. Like I said, I've heard from several people, there's too much finger pointing going on. There's too much, it's your fault. It's your fault. The bad call. Oh, well, you need to make the play. There's too much of that going on. And it's quite frankly, it's disappointing because this is the same thing when I was there last year. There's too much finger pointing. And these guys need to get back to, hey, it was my fault. I need to be better. And I'm going to give everything I can for Michigan. That's what they need to do instead of, this era now where it's everyone else's fault and not mine. That needs to get fixed in this week, because that's part of it too. Because if you have a dismembered, defense and guys are all over the place, they're not going to want to play as hard. They're not as motivated, right? If you walk out onto the field and you don't like the guy next to you, your chances of making that tackle are probably going to be lower because you're not on the same page with him. You know what I mean? And you're not, vice tackling the right way, or vice tackling is a double team tackle. So it's all those things combined: lack of discipline, lack of unity and fundamentals, and it can be fixed, but it needs to be done fast.
Well, speaking of things that need to be done fast, we are going to move on and finish up this show. Depressing week, man. Be glad you're only doing one of these a week. I'm doing 6 this week.
It's hard to bring energy. Like, I want to be happy. I want to bring energy, but it's a brutal brutal week, and there was a lot of emotions last weekend. I feel everyone's emotions out there. So,
all right. Well, we're going to continue on. We're going to continue talking about this, but we're going to kind of move forward. What do you expect against Washington? Let's get to that here in just a moment. But before we do, the holidays are going to be here before you know it, which is exciting, but getting your home ready for guests and celebrations can feel like a lot. Maybe your serveware needs a refresh, or the guest room could use some new bedding. I just actually got some new bedding from Wayfair in my very bedroom, not holiday bedding, but still, Wayfair makes it easy to personalize your home for the holidays, and with a huge selection for every style and budget, and with free and easy delivery, even on the big stuff, you can get everything you need without the hassle of huge delivery fees. I love how easy it was to find pieces that fit my style and budget. Everything was in one place, and checkout was a breeze. The delivery is fast and free, which was a lifesaver during this busy time of year. Now, instead of stressing about getting the house ready, you can actually enjoy the holidays with friends and family. So get organized, refreshed, and ready for the holidays for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. We're going to continue on momentarily. But before we do, when the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with SupplyHouse. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow with over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. The real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts fast for a project? SupplyHouse has next day delivery. Talk about a game changer. The part finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. So join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use the promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. All right, we got to keep this to under 7 minutes just because in order to get this to work, I'm having some technical difficulties. You won't see it, right? Like, I know this is going to just cause a bunch of the trolls like, you're so untech savvy. You don't know how to use anything. Like, no, I know how to use things. It's just sometimes you can't get things to work, like the communication between my camera and the computer. So, with that in mind, I'm recording locally, and I've only got 6 minutes before the camera shuts off. So that's our hard out, Jack. 6 minutes.
Sounds good.
Anyhow, we've talked about a lot of the problems and everything. What do you expect to happen against Washington? I mean, it's a new game. Michigan has tended to play better at home. I feel like Washington's a little bit undersized on the lines. It's a good opportunity, I feel, for them to get back to #smash. But what do you think is gonna kind of transpire this weekend? Do they regroup?
Yeah, so let's do some quick hitters on both sides of the ball and what both sides of the ball need to do. And I'm going to start with the defense. Defense needs to regroup. You know, they're coming into this week facing a very, very good quarterback, Damon Williams. He is elite. He can throw the ball. He can run. Maybe a 4-3. And the only way Ohio State was able to shut him down was because they were mush rushing. They had a QB spy on him. They got him uncomfortable, and they were great in coverage behind it. You know, Patricia does some great job. He does a great job with Ohio State's defense, moving it around, creating simulated pressures, dropping guys out. And it's really confusing for a quarterback, and that affected Damon. That's what Michigan needs to do. Wink can do that. He's shown that. And he needs the D-line, need a mush rush, contain this kid. And, you know, maybe Jayshon Barham on a spy, because he is the most athletic linebacker they have and the fastest. So if they can somehow mush rush, keep him isolated in the pocket, have Jayshon right there on him and stop the QB run game and force him to throw the ball into some exotic coverages, things could look good for this defense. And I like Michigan. Let's switch to the offensive side, right? They're going to be facing Ryan Walters, who's the DC now at Washington, now that Belichick went with his dad to North Carolina.
Who also, by the way, is one of the biggest criers when it comes to the Connor Stallion sign gate stuff.
Yes. And as much as I don't like him, he's a really good coach. He knows what he's doing, and his defense has switched up a little bit this year. I always hated playing him because it was man aligned defense that could go to cover 2 at any point, and that was his thing at Illinois and what Illinois loved to do. And now it's, after watching a little bit of film and talking to my buddy who was a coach at Michigan, he talks to me every week. Shout out to him. Not going to name his name yet, but shout out to him. We talked about,
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate you.
He used to coach at Michigan. Now he's not, but he does a great job and he's a beast. So they play a little less 5 up. They do some more 4 down and zone behind it. We don't know what they're particularly going to do versus Michigan yet. It could be more man, which they played against Rutgers, or it could be more coverage, more zone coverage like they did against Ohio and Maryland, which is explainable because Ohio's really good receivers. Maryland's got Malik Washington, a really good quarterback, right? So the first drive, we will see how Washington's defense wants to attack Michigan's offense. And if it does go man, this is a big day for number 1, Donovan McCulley, and Andrew Marsh, number 4. Those guys need to take over and keep doing what they've been doing the past couple weeks, but separate, create easier throws for Bryce Underwood. They need to just push to get open every single time. Those guys need to have a great game. If we're going to see zone coverage and 3 safety coverage, Bryce needs to really identify this pre-snap. It's tough. It's hard. Those coverages are hard to, sort out sometimes, but they get him some nice pure progression plays, and which we haven't really seen a whole lot of lately. It's been a lot of play action and RPOs and stuff like that. But if they can get him some nice pure progression plays and set him up for success, then, and we establish a run game, which versus a weaker, caliber of players in Washington, then I like Michigan's offense too. I think they'll be okay. But the defense needs to shut down Damon Williams if they're going to win this game. That needs to happen.
Last one, we got 60 seconds, but to end on a negative note, because that's what we're doing this week. How confident are you that the coaches can self-diagnose? Because as much as Sharon and all of them say we self-scout all the time, I do feel like this is a coaching staff at times that seems stubborn, stodgy, and doesn't necessarily do the things that you would look at even as a layman like me or like you or Connor and say you can't do this against that team because that's going to cause problems. And then they do it anyway. How confident are you that they can self-scout and right the ship in terms of that?
I think they're going to see it. It's on the film. The eye in the sky doesn't lie. I think what really needs to happen is unification of the team and the players and the coaches. And because sometimes you can self-scout, but if you don't unify the players with the coaches, the players don't always know what the coaches are thinking and vice versa. And that can cause some discord in what we saw last game. And that's it. So I could cut it close with the 60 seconds.
Well, with that in mind, that's going to do it for us today. And tomorrow we will dig deep into the manifesto, and man, we're going to have to dig really deep into it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thank you to Jack. We'll talk to you again soon. Peace.